Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Bouncing Back with Brighton. In today's episode, we're of course going to start the new season and review our summer transfer activity. But I have come back a little bit earlier. I'm not actually through the summer transfer window because something has come up. So basically the whole spiel about this summer transfer window was going to be about how I was trying to consolidate the club. Yeah, as you can see here, our finances last season were not very good whatsoever. We were in the red for quite a large period of it, and we were losing money every month. So I decided this summer I was not going to go out and spend the big bucks. I was going to try and bring in a lot of transfer revenue. And as you can see by the overall balance, we have done so. But then this has come up. Tycoon eyes Brighton. So someone is looking at us potentially to take over the club and invest large sums of money, which completely throws me summer out of the window from what I've done for the club. If we do end up getting took over by the Tycoon, that is. So by the time you next see me, we could have new owners and I might have an absolute massive bank balance and nowhere to spend it. And we're back. The summer transfer window has concluded. I completely forgot, because it's Qatar 2022, that the summer transfer window ends a lot sooner than it usually would. In terms of our takeover, nothing has happened yet. I haven't received any other messages since the last time you sell, which was only it was 2 weeks ago in game, something like that. Which is a good job considering the summer transfer window was closing quick, and if there was a takeover that we would have been banned from completing transfers, which would have been a little bit problematic. So transfer window itself has been a little bit weird in terms of how I usually play things. As you can see, we have brought in £121 million and only spent £25.5 million. That was purely down to try and get our finances in shape for this season, to hopefully mean that we're not struggling towards the end of the season in terms of finances. Our wage budget has actually decreased from what we were spending last season, and obviously we've still got £50 million transfer budget in the bank should we need to do anything in January. We are in the Champions League, so that money should be trickling throughout the season. That'll be very, very handy. 153 in the balance, so we're looking okay there. So even if we were to be losing, let's say £50 million or 60 or 70 over the course of the season, we should still be okay. Our board is still playing incredibly cautious. Only 35% of transfer revenue is made available, so that sort of gives you the indication that financially we could do with getting taken over by somebody. In terms of the other financial stuffs, I am trying to get us another affiliate club. We already got one last season. I'm trying to get one this season to increase our revenue from the overseas market. Now, in terms of the incomings and outgoings, John Souttar, our first outgoing, big money, £45 million from Chelsea. You'll see why I ended up selling John when we get to the incomings, but for £45 million, I thought he was wanting to leave. It's been a couple of seasons now where he's had the bigger clubs interested in him, and I think it was just about time that we parted ways. He's done excellent stuff, signed for us in the Championship for £10 million, and he's been fantastic for us ever since. But we've got some great young centre-back options, and we didn't need him anymore. And the £45 million was one of the best offers we received for any of our players. Next up to leave was Sergio Reguilón for £27 million. We discussed this last season that he was likely to be one of the ones who was sold. We've got two better left-backs, pure and simple. He was a free transfer the first season in the Premier League. He done pretty well for us in that season, but he played back up last season, so I think he whinged a little bit last season, so he's got his move, £27 million straight up front, no clauses or anything, so that is ideal. Dejan Joveljic has left the club and he's joined Bordeaux for an initial fee of 16.25, potentially rising to 20. He was another one who was signed in the Championship, I think, for a couple of £1 million. He never ever really got going for us. Even in the Championship, he didn't do enough. So he spent last season out on loan in Poland, did okay, and he's earned himself a move to Bordeaux and brought us in some much needed transfer profit. Next one to leave was Alexis McAllister, £16 million to Wolves, straight 16 million, no fee, no additional fees or anything. He was a decent backup option, and because he was already at the club as well, £7 million, that was an agreed deal prior to me taking over at Brighton. I think he did okay for us, Championship he did okay, Premier League he was pretty much a backup player, but he did okay. I think that was the key word there. Next to leave was Alan Ramoli. This one might be a little bit of a surprise. He was our backup striker to Rodrigo Marquez, but he was our first choice in our first season in the Premier League. We signed him for £5.5 million, and he did still have potential to grow. And it wasn't somebody who I was particularly eyeing up to leave, but once the offers started coming in and he started kicking up a little bit of a fuss, I decided to sell him to young boys get the money in from him. As you can see, making the huge transfer profits in terms of our incomes and outgoings was my main thought this season. And I think, was he on his... No, Alex McAllister, Joveljic and Reguilón were all on the last years of the deals, so we did have to get them moved on this summer. Christian Walton, our backup goalkeeper forever. He's not good enough to be our backup goalkeeper, and he's finally left the club and joined Watford for 250k. A lot of our youngsters has gone out on loan. Johan Hernandez, Lettieri, Ash Waters, Mike Lacey, Kevin McGovern, all this sort of stuff. Jason Price is one of the ones that I want to highlight. I did have visions of him being our second choice striker, purely because he was English, but our only 2-star current ability and the sort of attributes you're looking at now, I think it would have been too much. You know, slotting him into a side, even against some of the lower Premier League teams, he might have significantly hurt our chances of actually winning games, which is the main, obviously the main ideal of it. But I did want to keep him at the club to train him myself, but it wasn't an option, so he's went out on loan to League One Bury. I don't think he was ready for Championship football, and none of the Championship clubs that did come in for him actually offered him a first team regular spot. It was all either rotation or backup option, so I decided just to let him go. Right, moving on to the incomings, we've got Morgan Gibbs-White. This was completely just... He was an English player, I needed one, I signed him. A centre midfielder / attacking midfielder. He might end up being our fourth choice for either of these positions, but you know, he's in the club. I told him he was a rotation option. He's not. He's literally squad filler. David Poisson was signed from Standard for £1.5 million. He's went out on loan to Oostende. That's what we're going with. Central midfield from Belgium. He's got some decent potential. He had a little bit more than this from his scouts, but when he's joined us, it has been downgraded significantly. But he could be a potential Premier League player in the future, so we'll continue to loan him out and see if we can make a decent bit of money on him. Freddie Woodman joined the club from San Jose for £2.6 million, which was his release clause. He has replaced Christian Walton as our backup goalkeeper. Again, I needed more English players. That was the only reason that this guy's ended up coming in. I did try and look for a goalkeeper who would actually replace Jack Butland, maybe a youngster with huge potential. Could have been any nationality, I would have been happy with that. But it turned out it just wasn't feasible. So Freddie Woodman joins the club as a backup option. Jose Mesquita was the reason we sold Alan Ramoli. He has joined the club. How much was that for? I've completely forgot. £3 million. He's a striker. Can play as the complete forward, which we play. 3-star current, 5-star potential, which was the... Alan Ramoli was listed as a 3-star current, 4.5-star potential. So he's going to be our backup option at the striker position to Rodrigo Marquez. And he might even end up replacing him, honestly. He's pretty similar in terms of the attributes. They're both pretty poor mentally, which is the key worry. But hopefully at the club I can get him some game time and he might improve as things go forward. Luis Gonçalves for £3 million from Braga was the reason why John Souttar was sold. The Portuguese players are just coming in clutch with the cheapness. He's a centre-back wonder kid, 3-star current, 4.5-star potential. He's going to be our third choice centre-back, I believe. And he's fantastic. I will be happy if he was one of my first two, honestly. So I'll try and get him as much game time as possible as well. Jack Clark ended up joining the club for £3.9 million. Now, you remember when Leeds win the Premier League, I think that we were quoted something like 55 million for him. So to get him for 3.9, I thought was a decent bit of business. He hasn't got the same potential that he did have at the beginning of the game. He's only at 4-star potential now, but he's 2.5-star current. He's went out on loan to Blackburn, who I believe are in the Championship. Hopefully gets plenty of game time there. It is in his contract that if they don't play him, they pay his wages. So hopefully Blackburn are financially savvy and play Jack Clark. And finally, Gonzalo Ramos. We had some major issues with Ryan Gravenberch during the summer. Barcelona kept coming in with offers 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 million pounds. They went up to 82 million. It wasn't enough to tempt me. But it has meant that he is just kicking up a massive fuss. So Gonzalo Ramos was brought in as sort of a replacement for Alexis McAllister, but also with the view that he might end up being our first choice if Gravenberch was to leave. Attack midfielder, another Portuguese player. He looks incredibly well-rounded, and I think he's a pretty similar player to Ryan Gravenberch in terms of his attributes. If we compare them here, you know, they are quite similar in terms of how they play, how the attributes line out. So we'll see how it goes. He is 1 year older than Gravenberch, so it's not as if he's got time on his side. And he's a lot smaller, which is one of my key concerns when I sign him. 5.5 foot compared to 6'2". But I think he's great. He can play at centre midfield as well, should he be required. And he's quite comfortable there, actually. So he might end up playing some games there for us as well if we have some injuries. But I'm happy with his signing. He was probably my favourite signing of the summer. In terms of how the rest of the squad lines up, some of the players who you might not recognise, like Abilio Neves, he was out on loan last season. He was the reason I sold Sergio Reguilón. He's either going to be our first choice or second choice left back. I haven't quite figured out who's going to get that spot yet, but he is in the squad for this season. Is there anybody else who you might not have seen? I don't think there is. There's not. Everyone else is who they were. In terms of the other players, Mbalo had £10.5 million offers. Why? I have no idea. He wasn't transfer listed. There wasn't anything. You had the likes of Everton, Preston, West Brom coming in with £10 million. And I couldn't figure out why. Stupid AI, I think. But hopefully he can stay fit this season and he can get some more game time. Was there anyone else who received any major offers? It was just Gravenberch, I think. Everyone else was pretty stable. Actually, Jane Bogle, we accepted a £26 million offer from Preston, but he rejected the contract, so he's staying at the club. It's sort of a double-edged sword. He's an English player, so it's good to keep him. But at £26 million for his sort of quality, I would have probably snapped the hands off. But he is staying at the club. Because everything's being pushed forward due to the World Cup, we have already played the Community Shield against Liverpool and we got beat 2-1. It was sort of a game where I wasn't really too bothered, wasn't paying too much attention. Sadio Mane put them in the lead, Alvarado equalised and Mohamed Salah scored later on to give them the victory. Our first game of the season is against Leicester City. Let's get into it. So this is how we're going to line up against Leicester City. Butland will of course start in goal. Tavares, Gonçalves, Badiashile and Abilio Neves in the defence. Gonçalves comes in because Nathan Wood is currently injured. Bentieb and Diego Aquino are two tried and trusted central midfielders playing today. Sebastian Yaros on the right, Gravenberch in the centre, Jeremy Doku on the left, and Rodrigo Marquez up top. Now, if I remember rightly, I'm pretty sure we had some trouble against Leicester City last season, so I would love to get off to a winning ways. So we kick off against Leicester, shooting from right to left in this first half. Hoping for some good performances. Gravenberch is going to be one of my key concerns for the rest of the season until he stops being unhappy. He is abysmal at the minute because I was rejecting offers from Barca. Man United came in. I think Chelsea and Real Madrid came in with derisory offers as well. So hopefully he stops kicking up a fuss and gets back to being happy and he might perform a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see on that. As we'll pick up with this highlight here, 6 minutes in, Tavares down the right hand side whips the ball in, Doku's there, it's headed clear, Gravenberch there, doesn't matter what his morale's like, he just bangs in goals. Well, he doesn't bang in goals left, right and centre, that's an utter lie, but he has done today. Tavares with some great work down the right hand side, ball whipped in, decent defending by Leicester, but Gravenberch picks it up on the edge and it's a great strike to beat Onana in goal. Well, that was the quietest first half after that goal I've ever seen. Absolutely no highlights following the goal, but that's fine by me. As long as we're playing well, we're keeping the majority of the possession and we're creating more of the chances if you trust the match stats. So we'll just kick back off and see how the second half goes. And there is another highlight. 51 minutes in, Gonçalves punches the ball up top. Rodrigo Marquez gets... Oh my days. Rodrigo, you were clinical last season. What happened there? That was completely diabolical by the Leicester City defence there to let him even get to the ball first. He had loads of time as well, but he took the first time strike on and it goes well over. Another highlight now, Bentieb picks up a loose ball after a Leicester City clearance. Gravenberch back to Bentieb. There's a lot of options in the box. Tavares finds Marquez. Tavares with a strike. Was second goal from the edge of the area. Another fantastic Doesn't Tavares only score bangers? He only scores absolutely fantastic goals. I guess your right back doesn't really get into that many goal scoring opportunities apart from long range strikes. But a nice 1-2 with Marquez here. Opens up a bit of space for him. First time strike. No Nana can do nothing about that one. So with 20 minutes to go, we're going to take a look at our bench and see who we want to get some game time. Gonzalo Ramos can come on for Gravenberch. I don't want to upset him by not giving him game time. Alvarado, I want to give him game time as well. Sebastian Yaros isn't having the greatest game on that right hand side, so we'll get him on for him. And we'll save our final sub till a little bit later, just in case of injuries or anything like that. With only a few minutes to go, we'll look to make our final change. We'll get Rodrigo Marquez off for Mesquita for his debut in the Premier League. And there is a highlight with 2 minutes to go. Aquino to Bentia with loads of space for Tavares here, but it manages to get cleared by Benkovic. And Leicester can probably break now. A long ball over the top. Tavares clears, but only goes far as Chilwell on the left-hand side. Maddison to Iwobi. To Hakan Çalhanoğlu, is that Leicester? Alright, then Lopez on his right-hand side. To Conte. Butland claims that this is just a pointless highlight, isn't it? But Alvarado is driving forward after receiving the ball. Ramos there on his debut. No. So I tell you, pointless. And there we are, full-time. Brighton 2, Leicester City 0. An absolutely fantastic performance for our opening game of the season, and it will hopefully set us up well going forward for the rest of the season. In terms of where we're expected to finish, by the way, for our board, qualify for Europa League, which we shouldn't have too much difficulty doing, I don't think. I think Chelsea aren't like the same sort of club that they were, and the top 6 is definitely left a little bit more wide open from what will be like at the beginning of the game. Our Champions League group stage, because of the weird way this season's going to run because of the 2022 World Cup, I'm not too sure when we actually when the group stage draws down for the Champions League, but I'll make sure to show you that when it does come up. And if you've got this far into the video, I'm guessing you watch the majority of my videos all the way through, so I'd just like to apologise for the lack of uploads recently. Last weekend I was at Northern Ireland for 5 days for a wedding, and I'm picking up all the overtime at work I can. I am not disengaged from this series or Football Manager in general. I'm actually really enjoying this series. It's just getting the time to do it, and work sort of taking priority, obviously. But hopefully going forward it'll be a little bit more consistent. And we'll just have to see where it goes. You know, I'm not going to explain myself every time I'm lacking in uploads. But I thought I'd give you the heads up that, yeah, I'm doing a lot of overtime at work, and that might affect video frequency going forward, but I am still enjoying it. I'm not going anywhere. But anyway, looking forward to the next episode. When's it going to be? I'll tell you what, we'll come back for Bristol City and Arsenal. Hopefully an easily winnable game, and then a much more difficult game at home against Arsenal. We'll see how that goes, but I think that's what we're going to do. But anyway, if you have enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like, and if you are enjoying my content, please get yourself subscribed. But until next time, take it easy.